everyone, and welcome back to 10 Minutes of Foodtech with the video podcast hosting the best players of global agri-food tech ecosystem. Today, we have the true pleasure to host Nadav Berger, founder and managing director of Peak Bridge, an Israeli venture capital investing in the most promising food tech startups and technologies. Hi, Nadav, and thanks for accepting our invitation.
Likewise, very privileged to speak to you, Antonio. It's been a while.
Thank you, Nadav. Nadav, 10 minutes, so we jump immediately with the first questions. And we are in the middle of a global pandemic. Everything was stopped, but fortunately, with respect, of course, of the pandemic, the food tech didn't stop. In fact, the investment in food tech went on. The last report of AgriFund showed that 9 billion invested in food tech in the first half of 2020. Do you think that food tech will be a main actor, will be a way to restart the world, will be something that will be heard more about in the post-COVID world?
So I believe that, first of all, one small corrections, we are not an Israeli fund. We invest in Israel, and we love to invest in Israel. So the two founders is Eric Sieber from Switzerland and myself, where I'm based in Israel. So the fund is actually global. We have one fund in Europe and one in the US. So pandemic. Well, maybe it's not politically correct, but actually pandemic brought the food tech to the front page. I would say in two major verticals. One of them is the connection between what we consume as human being and what we put into our body, and the direct connection to that with our health and condition and our ability to resist and fight the pandemic. So statistics from the UK says that 60-70% of the death issues in the UK from the pandemics were with people with overweight and obesity. So where did we get those weights and obesity? It's by our habits on what we consume and so forth. So a growing awareness at the population, in general population, of the importance of food to our ability to fight COVID. And everybody assume, I think, that it's common knowledge that this is unfortunately not the last pandemic that we're going to face in humanity. So the first big movement, I would say, that pushes, that brings food tech to the front page is the connection between our health condition and what we consume and eat and drink. So top areas there would be personalized nutrition, different diets from keto and so forth, but just pay attention, just understand better what we consume and what it makes to our body. And the second one is the pace of the change. We saw that pandemic in a few weeks changed the way we do business, but changed businesses in general. Look at how we consume food in the US. In the US, it used to be the case that 54% of the food was consumed out of home. So people were ordering from Uber Eats and Deliveroo and so forth, or going and dining in restaurants and so forth. And 46% was cooked at home. With weeks' time, this flipped. So people went back cooking at home because they can't go to restaurants, and not everyone can afford to make deliveries, and they started to cook. Now, this is not a small movement. When you talk about 340 million people changing their habits overnight, almost overnight, this is a big thing. And this is what I'm referring with pace. So the understanding that changes in the food consumption can happen overnight and big time means that we need to bring new technologies, especially for delivery, but also insights at real time. You all aware that we invested in TasteWise. So things are changing very rapidly, and we need to understand how the consumer are changing their habits at real time, all the time, secure the supply chain. How can we serve food if we can't get raw materials to the US or to Europe when they come from Asia and so forth? So pandemic influenced the value and very rapidly. So food tech is here to stay, and we're only at the beginning of the revolution.
Oh, thank you, Nadav. In fact, just a comma, you mentioned Taste-Wise. Taste-Wise, in my opinion, it will be one of the future food tech unicorn, I can say. And interesting, Nadav, in fact, you approached you talk about healthy food, you talk about food delivery, some trend that emerged, surged during this pandemic. We don't forget the pandemic even approached people to sustainable food, to plant-based. For example, United Nations estimated that in 2020, meat consumption will drop of 3%. So 9.5 billions of meat consumed less in the world. So, and of course, yeah.
Finger crossed.
Yeah. And of course, this will definitely bring plant-based and the next future cell-based to went mainstream. Can you anticipated, of course, partially the second question. Can you tell something more about what we'll see in this next year in Foodtech, maybe in a food chain perspective, farm to fork?
So look, like in the food tech revolution, I think that the plant-based and alternative to animal source proteins is here to stay, and we are only at the beginning. And it's only trivial or elementary that the greatest success in food tech, the story comes from this domain, and I'm referring to Beyond Meat, of course. But here's my concern. We as a fund, we do not invest in plant-based. Why? Because we feel that we're not educated enough. We feel that this is becoming a very red ocean. So you really need to understand what's the difference between one company to another. And the more the merrier. But at the end of the day, it will be a play of the ability to deliver at scale, to build brands. And we as a fund, we invest mostly in technology, less in branded products. Now, if I can build on those two things, I believe that the Beyond and brands like this did an amazing job by bringing the topic to the front. So people hopefully will reduce the consumption of meat. And this is not a nice to have. We have to, because if not, we are living a destroyed planet to our kids. We as a fund, as we invest only in technology, we think that the next wave of investments in the plant-based actually want to be in the end products. So it's not about the next burger, it's actually in the ingredients that will allow those burgers to be healthier, with less processed food methods, and with less ingredients, and ingredients that people can understand and read the label and know what they are. So the revolution started. It started very, direction is great, but now I think that we have to put a little bit more emphasis on how we create those products and bring and promote ingredients that can simplify the ingredient list and makes those processed foods alternatives into more healthier and better for you products. This is where we invest, the ingredients that goes to the plant-based alternatives.
Nadav, interesting what you told about ingredients and make plant-based products labels shorter, because it's one of the issues that are facing some plant-based brands. And talking about ingredients, of course, Israeli is one of the important center for plant-based ingredients manufacturer, from Equinomics seed breeding, but you have InnovoPro, you have Zero Egg, you have chickpeas, so it's can be definitely be the future of plant-based started in Israel. And absolutely agree that probably now we see a lot of plant-based brands, but even maybe not so much technology, not so much ingredients. So interesting what you told, that now it's time to invest in the plant-based value chain, plant-based ingredients instead of a plant-based brand, because as you told, probably requires other skills, but you have the skills, as you told, to maybe invest in the plant-based ingredients. Absolutely interesting. But Nadav, Israel is not just plant-based ingredients. Israel is one jewel in the global agri-food tech ecosystem. Would you mind sharing what's your secret recipe? Because it's an example for agri-food-tech players all around the world. Israel is an example. Would you mind sharing your secret recipe to build this powerful agri-food-tech ecosystem?
Well, if I'm going to share it, it's not going to be a secret. So I don't believe in secrets. I think that 50 years ago, the greatest French chefs used to keep all their notebooks with recipes close to their hearts and chest and never shared. I think that this is a community that will save planet Earth and make better food for you. And this is a global movement, and we have to share. So happy to share. I think that Israel in general is very good in building great entrepreneurs. So with all due respect and with all the great story about Israel, let's be modest for a second. I don't think that the Institut Louis Pasteur in Paris is better is less good than the Technion in Israel. Both of them are good, but it's not that in Israel we have components and ingredients that do not exist elsewhere. What I think consists in Israel is the typical entrepreneurship spirit. So a typical entrepreneur, I always say that when he or she starts a company, they do two things. One, they register the company, and second, they buy a ticket to New York. So Israeli entrepreneurs will think big, will think how to influence the world, will think how they can change the world and do good, better, and also make money. This is totally okay. But they will think outside of Israel. They will be very ambitious. I think that Israel's opportunity to do something scalable and for long term is not about creating stories and the buzz about Israeli food tech. It's time now to strengthen the substance. And the substance you have to strengthen by having a vibrant ecosystem. You have to have more startups, more investors, better academia. We have to have more faculty that teaches food technology. In Israel, we have a lot of support by the government. So this is okay, tick the box. So if I can wrap up, I think that Israel is very good in entrepreneurship. I don't think that great academia is everywhere, great technology is everywhere, but Israel has the drive to take it and make something big time. For me, the secret sauce, which is not secret anymore, the best combination would be an Israeli entrepreneur, undervalued, underappreciated European technology, and launching in the American market.
Okay. Okay. Very, very interesting, Nadav. And you talk about, in fact, startup, investor, academia, government, probably is the power to connect the dots to create an agri-food-tech ecosystem. Because as you told, any other country in the world has academia, and the other world has startups, investor, but probably it means the power, the skills to connect all the dots and create an ecosystem. Nadav, we were in time. I thank you very much for these precious insights about 2021 and food tech and Israel. It has been a great pleasure. Thank you, guys, and see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for your attention, and a special thanks to Forward Fooding, that's partner of the TheFoodCons on this awesome project. I would like reminding you that Foodtech 500 applications are closed, but you can apply by now for next edition at forwardfooding.com/Foodtech500. Thank you!